Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. First of all, the Joseph and the ETH Prague team. It has been a delight to be here in the city of Prague, and it's a beautiful city. And it's great to engage with the community in the ETH Prague conference. I also appreciate that they invite artists to a blockchain conference to talk about their work. This is a rare thing, as you may know. So I really appreciate for that. So I'm going to talk about today like 4 of my works. These are like 2 of ones are pre-blockchain era, from 2008, 7, and then 2 works from post-blockchain era, like this, around this time, 2023. And you will see my art pieces are not simply visual or like representational. They are like systems incorporating software, art, and data. And networks, and they don't really fall into categories of like visual generative art or AI art. And these are like really systems that kind of, that are machine readable. That means you can access these works from multiple facades and interfaces. And basically, you'll see the examples there, basically. I'll start with MyPocket. Around 2008, during my studies at the MIT Media Lab, I was invited to a meeting with this company called MasterCard. As you may all know, they wanted to visualize the global transactions they have, around the world. And after I left this meeting, I felt really, uncomfortable because they knew a lot about, like, all of us. So I decided to check my own bank transactions, what's going on there, to see my spending behavior, basically. And I basically also checked the privacy policy they have about the consumers. And there you can see things like, they share your information with third parties. This is all obvious for us now. But they also say that, for instance, if you request that we not share information with them, they still share this information. There's no out, no way out. So, as you may be aware today, they not only share the data itself, but also make analysis on this data, make predictions about us, and sell that too, which is obviously more valuable to them because they want to target ads to us in everywhere possible. So to expose this practice to the general world in 2008, again, this is before Snowden revelations and so on and so forth. So I wanted to really use my own bank transactions to make predictions about my own behavior and expose this to the world. So basically, I run the software. I built the software which is pulling my data every night, and making analysis and making predictions about my behavior and what I will buy next every other day. So as a result, every morning I will check my RSS feed. This was an RSS feed at the time, and sometimes I would follow this, these results. Other times I will just intentionally, alter my behavior just to be, unpredictable in this in this world. So I lived this type of software for 2 years. And and this system had like these multiple components. Like you see in this exhibition view, there are 3 different components. First one is this what I call transaction graph. And this animation shows basically how I modeled the prediction system there. Simply, every transaction is a node, and they are linked to one another if they share a category of. Is it my phone? No. Okay. If they share a category about their, transaction type, for instance, this can be a thing like a coffee or a ticket or grocery, dining, etc. And or they are connected to one another if they also share things like time of the day of the week, or like the weekday, weekend, and so on and so forth. These similarities basically built this model, and then from there I will run different algorithms to basically make predictions about my future transactions. And also, sorry, maybe go back. Yeah, and also turn this RSS feed into a dashboard where you can see regular purchases in white color, current predictions in red, and correct predictions in green. Basically, as such, these transactions became open and public to everyone, not just exclusive to the banks themselves. And finally, in this work, I stored the receipts, those physical receipts, into a box and then marked them if they are predicted correctly. And so each receipt with all the information on them, as you may know, the transaction details, they become a physical proof of predictions. And I call them ready-mades from the future, as a joke also, because unlike the Duchampian ready-mades, which you may know, they are like picked from the industrially produced objects and signed by the artist, these are the ready-mades that their existence were predicted ahead of time. And they are marked also with the prediction itself. Okay. So around the same year also, I worked on this project called MetaMarkets, like 2007, when social media was getting popular. The early days of Facebook, and they opened their API, iPhone just started, and so on. Those days, basically, I was questioning like this idea that what's our value as a user to a social media platform. You can never know about this information by just asking it to them, obviously, because they will not tell you. So I established a stock market to collectively find this out. Okay? On MetaMarkets, you'll initiate an IPO of your social media profile, like Facebook profile, for instance, and you agree to share your profiles into to turn your profile into 1,000 shares, and keep half of it for yourself and the other half for sale in the auction. In a Dutch auction IPO, the auction will set the price for your work, for your shares, and your friends mostly buy from these shares. And keep in mind, this was before Bitcoin. So everyone who joined the platform received a certain amount of virtual currency that I invented, I made up, and then their accounts, they have this currency, and they use that to join these auctions and buy and sell these shares of different people. And you can see in these metrics, for instance, this dashboard shows the market price dashboard next to a social media like a dashboard. They are next to each other. It's because, as you know, stock market basically supply, demand, and speculation, they all define the price. But at the same time, there was a crucial role of the social media here, because people actually, they primarily bought and sold from the people that they know. Okay, so we combined the social media with like a market system in a single platform like that. It was a fun experiment. People also discussed in the comments of these shares, like the valuation itself, and what formulas we should use to really calculate the fair value of a market, of a social media, for instance. Those type of discussions were taking place in this platform. Maybe around 3,000 people were engaged. These people basically discussed these ideas together. And I had to shut down this platform after a while because of the operational costs, and it was also to the time when the Bitcoin was just emerging around 2008 and 9. One thing we learned from this experiment, basically this concept of user labor, and we kind of built a standard, or proposed a standard, let's say, and used on MetaMarkets itself to basically measure the activities of users and then make calculations on their value on any platform in general. Anyway, so coming to today, social contracts. This is the work I've done in 2023, sorry. It's a series of living artworks as NFTs. When you mint the social contracts NFT, it traces the contracts that you own from, an NFT piece that you own from a contract, and the other accounts who own from your contracts, and those accounts, what other contracts they own. So it's like a multi-degree network of your owners, basically, from your collection. And then that builds a graph, a kind of collector's graph, where you can make predictions about future acquisitions of these minters, the minting account. So these interactive graphs reveal the social patterns in NFT art collecting. And in these graphs, you can identify accounts that share, similar tastes with you, or accounts, and some of whom you might know, people, your friends, maybe, or famous people online or something, or others could be newfound connections. And there are many of them, like around 900 of them, and each of them was minted by some individual, and then they basically, some people mint multiple, and then they basically explore their collections through these works. If you zoom into one of them, for instance, these are interactive pieces. You can zoom in, click, drag, open these nodes by clicking on them. Here, like for instance, you can see the NFT details. They are linked to OpenSea or Etherscan and so on. And you can explore the multiple steps of links between individuals and accounts, so accounts and contracts, and back to contract accounts, and so on and so forth. So you can navigate in these graphs through this way. So those blue lines, for instance, represent the prediction between the minting account and their future possible acquisitions. And you can also explore them in the same way. So the closer the accounts to each other in terms of proximity, the more common contracts they share. So the layout of the algorithm, the graph, is also relevant to those relationships. How is it a living artwork, you may ask maybe. So each NFT is updated periodically and evolves with each transfer of ownership. So on transfer, basically, each new collector's data added to the graph, and together they grow and grow over time, and then it changes the form and provenance of the work, obviously. For instance, one example, different artists, they kind of send this NFT to each other, and they build these rings, kind of, and from those rings they basically, explore their collective collection, let's say. Also, in terms of traits of these NFTs, you can see each NFT has metadata, including like attributes of visual form, but also attributes about their data inside the graph, which is provenance, the past ownership, similar accounts, and predicted contracts, the addresses of the contracts. And on OpenSea, you can utilize these metadata to navigate the entire NFT collection, obviously. But with this data that's also inside the graph, it's another way of navigating the entire graph mechanism that we built here. And you can search a name of a person or a ENS name and now see where do they exist as a similar account in other people's graphs. And then click on one of those, explore further, the details of that particular piece, and then continue basically, jumping from one account to another contract and so on, like the way you explore social media in general. So with social contracts, basically, the act of collecting becomes an integral part of the work. And in essence, it basically states that NFTs are already a social graph. They provide a social graph for us, and blockchains obviously inherently produce these implicit social relationships for us. So it's it's just for us to really explore this and use the social layer that's already out there. I'm grateful for my collaborators for this project, the JPEG Space, the Dot Space, a protocol and a community focused on creating NFTs. You can check their website, jpeg.space. I also want to extend my thanks to the JPEG community for their incredible support and engagement with Social Contracts project, because their participation truly brought these pieces to life. Lastly, I want to talk about the Prompts project. So this is a collaboration with my friend Sam Hart. We basically built a socially transmissible NFT system that you will see. We have been working on this slowly over the years, and during the COVID times especially, we are inspired by concepts like digital artist communities, surf clubs and scenes, fluxus events, event scores especially, instruction-based conceptual artwork, temporary autonomous zones, and blockchain's inherent verifiability and coordination capacity. So we wanted to basically enable verifiable collaboration among artists based on different creative prompts. And these are prompts not for AI, but for the artists to execute. Okay? So Exquisite Corpse is the first instance of this project called Prompts. It's a system that draws inspiration from the surrealist and old surrealist drawing technique. This traditional method involves basically folding a paper and drawing the top part, passing to someone who draws the middle part. They pass to someone, they draw the bottom part, and then they complete a single body. And so we took that and turned it into an NFT system, or maybe a smart contract system, better to say. And then it extends the ERC 721 smart contract standard, enabling a verifiable collaborative authoring system. The functions that exist in this contract is basically the extra functions that exist are creating a session. When you create a session, you create a token ID, but it's not mintable yet. It becomes mintable when all contributors join and add their part. It becomes a mintable token, a classic NFT token after that moment. You can also change the price, update the price of your portion of your work. So as an example from the visual interface, again, this is one of the clients that we can build. You can build multiple of those, obviously, for the smart contract. You basically go and create the first session, an empty canvas. You draw your own part, the head, right? And then you add the other people's accounts to this, your friends, your collaborators. And then you submit this as an on-chain call to the contract, which then records and data, the SVG data and the IP and the JSON metadata of this entire thing is stored on IPFS as well. It's all accessible, obviously, from any system out there. And once you are invited as a contributor to this session, you can also create your own sessions yourself. And this way, the network grows organically and socially over the time. And there are only 1,000 sessions that we set as a supply limit for this experiment. So it will gradually become mintable, all these different NFTs. Currently, we only have 7, I think. We call them corpses as NFTs, 7 corpses out there. And you can go to the page and zoom in, zoom out, scroll them and explore who actually builds these works together, who collaborates with one another as artists. And you can see the names. These are ENS names, usually. So you can basically enjoy this, deliberative and thoughtful process of artists, creating a visual dialogue between each other. One last thing about this work, the lineage of the discussion of rarity and value, obviously, these don't only come from the visual quality of the work, but they come from the people who contribute to these drawings. Okay, so who's involved with this work is kind of the important part that will drive the value and the meaning of the work. You can follow Prompt Studio on Twitter and join the Discord channel we have. And it's all available on the links on the account. And you can see some of the artists. And if you want to draw, if you want to join, you can join the channel and ask for invites. And one last thing I want to talk about briefly is this new project that I'm working on at the moment. This is not live. It's called Time to Live. And I will finish with this. Time to Live project basically invites artists to create a living artwork, each of them creating a living artwork with an agency, like the way Gene was talking about, maybe. And then they should also create these artworks that are living together. So different artworks that are like, each of them have autonomy, and they work together or they live together in some way. So to explain this concept, imagine if this project was conducted in the 60s, for instance. I could put some names here and pieces you may be familiar or not. So, for instance, Hans Hakke, who built this condensation cube on the center top. He would, send the humidity values of his box to Vita Conchi, who's following a stranger on the streets of New York, for instance. And then he's like footsteps, but he maybe adjusts his walking speed based on the humidity levels coming from the other artwork. And then maybe the patterns he creates in the city of New York is maybe translated to Guy Debord's psychogeographical maps, in another project. And then maybe the patterns that emerge in these maps may be translated into Jan Tingley's like self-destructing sculptures, possibly, right? And then in a way that it modulates their speed of bicycle wheels and stuff like that, for instance, in that work. And then the maybe time of destruction can be translated to Yoko Ono's piece, where she's performing on the stage, and the audience comes and cuts pieces from her body, from her clothes, and maybe that time limit is actually limiting people's participation in that cutting piece. And lastly, her heartbeats are translated into the Hansake's piece, where in the room it maybe modulates the temperature of the room, which actually affects the condensation itself. It's like completing the full cycle here like that. You can see how different artworks can have different agencies in their own way, in their limited way, and then can affect each other in different ways. So to realize something like this in today's world, artists will have to create, outputs from their work. Also, they should take inputs to their work, right? And then modulate their work in some way. Of course, to enable something like that, they have to agree on a protocol. And this protocol somehow has to exchange, has to exist on blockchains so that we have a more, decentralized and independent system. And then this way we can maybe create this idea of time to live together. So basically, for me, I'm at the moment building this system in different levels. On one hand, collaborating with different artists. On the other hand, developing the actual mechanism and the system architecture in general. So my goal is to really facilitate long-term collaboration and collectivity between artists that is independent of any existing, time or place. So if you'd like to contribute, you're welcome. I'm open to conversations about this. I'm available on Twitter, Discord, everywhere in real life here as well. So that's about it. Okay, thank you so much. We may have maybe a couple of minutes for the questions, if any. Okay, I think we're cool.